Alright everyone, this is Shepard. Today we're going to be going over the new guy, Frostfang Barioth. Important to remember, this guy is only around as an event. He's not a permanent optional like Furious Rajang or Raging Bracky. I don't really know why they made that as a choice. I mean, his gear is okay. It's not meta or completely game-changing like Raging Bracky stuff is, but whatever. I assume it's got a little bit to do with like FOMO, like, hey, we got new stuff. Make sure to come back and play it now. You can't just wait for it forever. So I don't think many people are going to be too stuck on this guy. We're going to start with a sword and shield playthrough on him anyways. Big thing to note, he like spits, you know, his gross frozen breath on the ground. If you get stuck in it, he smashes his head into your body. Really, it's going to be an issue for lances and most ranged weapons. Certainly not pierce, maybe not even spread, but like normal, where you might be in like kind of like an intermediary stage, or certainly bows, you're gonna have to be like really careful about where you stand. Generally, if you're like under him, you're safe, which is kind of like a weird place to be if you're a ranged user. Otherwise, you have to stand like farther away than you're normally comfortable standing. Otherwise, he's just kind of like a slightly different Barioth. So getting damage done to his wings, trying to take advantage of the wing breaks to get him to fall over and then deal additional damage to his face is good. There's a mechanic I wish I played around with a bit more, and you know, if he was a harder fight, I probably would try to figure it out. The ecology guide suggests that if you break his head all the way, it weakens his ice breath. I don't know what that means. Usually in the beginning, like, I'm focused on breaking his arms. So for the first, you know, decent portion of his health, I'm focusing on arm breaks and whatnot. By the time I get around to breaking both of his fangs, he's like dead. So that doesn't help much. I think I'm going to run into some ice here. So here you'll see it. So right away, and especially if he's angry, he usually does this attack twice in a row. So if you get hit, like you want to lay down for part of it. No, here we go. All right, well, we're just demonstrating it, right? This is just for tutorial purposes. Obviously, this was not a mildly scuffed run that should have probably been re-recorded. Here we go. We should get the ride. You didn't know you can use things like scatter nuts, crystal bursts, bomb pods, piercing pods to sort of speed up rides. See, that's what I did there. And I'm going to hop onto the head. I'm going to mash the button a little bit, and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to mash it. I'm going to stop. Now I'm going to mash it all the way. Just a little trick you can do with the shield. The sword and shield, you get, you know, some little extra hits off there. It's pretty nice. Generally speaking, you almost always have enough time on a down to get a shield bash into a perfect rush. I'm still practicing the guy, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how much I can get away with. Again, he's angry, so don't try to get up right away. When he's enraged, he does that attack twice. And see, when he's not enraged, he only does the attack once. That's something else to watch out for. I always like to make sure the parts that are not yet broken are tenderized before I do a wall bang. Generally speaking, monsters will take part damage to any part that has been tenderized when they get slammed into a wall. It's important to keep track of there. I was hoping to be able to get a back hop out of that, but I didn't. Active frames on his body are actually not that bad. I don't have any evasion window. So if you even have like one or two, that should really not be that big of a deal. Just completely ignore. You see the Temporal Mantle does automatically evade the ground ice for you. For some reason you are really struggling. You might even want to consider then running, like, I don't know, a couple points of maintenance wouldn't be the end of the world. You can see here at the very least on the arm flinches, you can easily get the shield bash into perfect rush. He's actually got so little life here, I'm going to flash him just to sharpen. Forgot to bring my wetfish scales. But I don't even know if I would have needed to sharpen, to be honest with you. This ends up being so quick. It's like, check this out. Like, give me like 30 seconds. Not even. See, I see him. It looks kind of like he's limping a little bit. I don't know if that was an actual limp or not, but I'm like, I bet he's ready for capture. And he was. This guy was out for less than 24 hours. So, I don't know. He was technically in the game when Elatrion was released, so I don't think this is a reaction to the very, very vocal minority of people that were upset over Elatrion. I doubt it, but if anyone from Capcom's watching this video, like, it's okay, guys. Give us strong monsters. Having Elatrion as a huge challenge makes a lot of people happy. Like, this guy could have probably twice the amount of life that he has, generally speaking, and I think people would actually be okay with that, 100%. So we're going to go over the equipment, so let me zoom over to that. If you haven't done so, though, before we get to that, definitely check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SDShepherd. Really appreciate it. It's the engine that allows me to create content. I know I don't make YouTube videos as often, but I'm pretty much on there every single day streaming Monster Hunter stuff right for you. Okay, let's take a look at the armor. So, first thing to point out, it has a 1-piece set bonus and a 3-piece set bonus. First piece set bonus, this is probably what we'll see the most use with Frostcraft Greatsword Punishing Draw. Punishing Draw gives 5 true raw to your attack, so that's just 5 flat, not 5%. As well as some stun to the first attack that comes out of your unsheath. So again, you'll mostly see this with Greatsword, and you might get yourself 1 KO out of it. It's very unlikely you'll see 2 KOs, but certainly if you're in a group with hammers and other things, you could help contribute a little bit in that way. 3-piece, you know, Slugger's Secret has always been a little bit of a meme. All it really does is it takes you, at least in multiplayer hunts, rather than going from like 1 KO, you might see 2. Now, if you're solo, it really depends on the monster, how weak they are to KO and whatnot, how low their KO threshold is. You know, certainly if for some reason you were fighting Gyarados, you could probably keep them almost permanently KO'd with this skill. But, I mean, that's Gyarados. You know, issue with Slugger in general is your best benefit is at the level 1, right? So 1 point gives you 20%. After that, each additional point only gives you an additional 10%. That being said, you know, the overall theme of Frostfang appears to me to be a little bit more about enabling fun sets. So Punishing Draw is kind of fun, right? It's something to aim for when you've got Frostcraft Greatsword. And likewise, Slugger's Secret, you know, not meta in any way, but could be sort of fun. In terms of how it looks, Alpha looks really cool, super fierce. Beta, I mean, I like the hair. You know, the set itself in beta almost just looks kind of like the Hoarfrost Reach, sort of, was it the Direwolf Laird? Okay, in terms of skills, as usual, for the most part, you're going to be looking at things like the beta set for the most value. In that regard, the head, chest, and arms seem to be the best value. You lose some value on the Tacit because, you know, Quick Sheath is more or less a useless skill. And then if you just take a look at the legs, I mean, they're basically equal to the chest, except they've got like 1 less point available to it, right? Like the chest gets an extra level 2 slot, assuming you're just going to be putting a attack plus in there anyways. So in terms of what's the most useful piece, you can see at least on my PC save, the arms, the only thing I made to go along with my Frostcraft Greatsword set. Again, chest is good, head is good. If you are going for Slugger Secret, the alpha legs actually do end up being kind of decent. You know, Slugger's kind of an annoying skill to stack up. There's no Slugger plus deco as far as I know. Likewise, like, you can kind of see some slight value in the alpha arms. Otherwise, there's pretty much no value to the alpha pieces. Weapons, for the most part, they all more or less kind of mimic like an upgraded Velcana sort of weapon. By no means are they OP, right? So we're not dealing with like a Raging Bracky where you're more or less contending with like a meta piece. You're basically giving people an additional, slightly better option for a ice crafted weapon outside of like a Safi or a Kolv weapon. So they, for the most part, they all follow the 270 True Raw, which is about equal to Velcana. 15% affinity, and generally okay ice element. And that's pretty much across the board. You know, so the Greatsword follows that, so you wouldn't use that because you want raw. Longsword follows that, so you wouldn't use that because you want raw. Sword and Shield. I mean, again, unless you're fighting, you know, Elatrion. Sword and Shield, same deal. Dual Blades. You know, Dual Blades especially, like, it's just not enough ice element. For the most part. Especially not compared to, like, a Safi or a Kolv sort of setup. They do look good. Hunting Horn, at the very least, feels more usable than a lot of the other recent Hunting Horns they've released. Mostly because it at least has attack up. Now, granted, it's attack up small. However, it does come with the elemental effectiveness up bubble. So, hey, it might help somebody that's not otherwise elemental capped. That's about it. Wouldn't be my favorite ice weapon, but it's at least a little bit more usable than a lot of other things. Lance, same deal. Gun Lance comes with normal 7. I'm normally not a fan of normal 7. Or just normal in general. It's very committal. And with normal, you really need as much like raw as you can get as well, because you're going to be constantly doing the side swipes. So it's probably the most armor skill intensive playstyle of Gun Lance. Switch Axe. Does come with Power Elemental File. I've got mixed feelings on Power Elemental File. For something that's really weak to ice, and which, you know, obviously if you're bringing this, it would be something that would be weak to ice. It can be okay. Things that are only like moderately weak to ice, though, you know, even though it says they're weak to ice, but they only take like 10 or 15% damage, I feel like you're a lot better off with a power file. Charge Blade is kind of like maybe the biggest odd man out, because it's an ice weapon, but it has impact file. So I don't know how the hell you build this, you know? Not only that, like, Beatota's Charge Blade is a thing that exists. I mean, it's neat in that it's rarity 11, so you'd be able to get a lot of things stacked on it, but otherwise it's kind of weird. I haven't delved too deeply into, you know, comparing the Ice Insect Glaive versus the Safi Insect Glaive. What this really has going for it is like Spirit and Strength boost is super good. It's rarity 11. It's got decent ice. It's got decent affinity. Right, so usually for a Safi Insect Glaive now, most people prefer to run Spirit and Strength boost. You know, you then have to run 2 sharpness augments to get like native purple. And that's probably at least about 2 elemental augments into ice. So I think it's usable. I think it's probably about as close to a equivalent Safi weapon as you're going to get. At least in terms of something that I might find myself using more regularly. Even if it's like not quite as good, it's like close enough. And it looks cool. And if you like don't want to feel like layering it, then you could at least use it. Light bowgun's probably the thing that stands out the most. And I'll just end up showing, you know, 2 variants of how you can mod this thing. But where it really shines is the spread 3 ammo. One thing to point out is it does have a little bit less true raw than the other weapons. It's got 260 true raw as opposed to 270 true raw. They do that with the bow guns or the bows sometimes. Kind of weird, but they did it. So we'll show that. So that's going to be a set that you'll see. Heavy bow gun, I didn't do as much analysis on this one. It does have spread 3. But it does only have 280 true raw, which I feel like we end up getting more out of the Safi heavy bowgun anyways. So, I don't know. I have to play around with it a bit. Bow. I don't think it's going to beat anything really. It's only got 42 base ice. I mean, granted, you could probably dump a ton of element into it, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be some sort of immediate meta or anything else like that. Okay, so this is going to be the more try-hard setup. Let's show the deck goes. Right, idea here is we're giving yourself one extra slot for spread. So we've got 3 free element, bunch of attack, crit as usual, 2 in spread, right? The first spread deco gives an extra 10%. Second spread deco gives an extra 5%. Mods on the bowgun, you can really run it 2 ways. You can either run it 2 recoil and then 2 close range, which I think this is going to be the more fun play style. But if you want a more safer play style, you can do 2 recoil, 2 reload. Right? This lets you reload while you're moving around, as opposed to this play style, which is the higher damage one, which is quite a bit more damage, at least to the range you're going to be shooting your spread at. But when you need to reload, you need to stand still. Fairly reminiscent of the Devil Joe light bowgun. If any of you played, you know, Monster Hunter World plenty enough towards the late game when people are playing around with different spread gun builds, that was the one that was used, and it was pretty fun. You actually have to think a little bit when you're using the bowgun. It's actually kind of like the classic Monster Hunter style. Those of you who played the older Monster Hunter games will remember that you had to stand still to reload. You also had to stand still to shoot, but that's how it goes. And so you hit pretty hard with this, right? So that's 47. And depending how lucky you get with Razor Sharp, that actually comes out relatively quick as well. I do want to point out how ridiculous this armor set is, by the way. I tried to make it better using like Alatrean parts or other stuff, but Raging Brachy's just like broken. It's just like a broken armor set. It's just too good. Just use the full beta. Like, if you count the points, that's what? 2, 4, 5, 6 points on the head. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points on the chest. 6 points on the arms. I mean, technically 2, but we use 1 slot. But 2, 3, 6 on the arms. Well, we're using it for 5. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the legs. So, like, each armor set piece, even though I'm not using the spread, is good. So it's like 6, 12, 18, 23, 28 points alone. Unbelievable. The gun itself helps a little bit. Being rarity 11 and having the extra 15% affinity that we pump up to 25 with affinity augment really helps. So probably the most useful thing you'll see out of this, I'm sure the gun guys, I'm sure Fumetto's probably already made a video about it. I'm sure he's excited. We'll see him using this quite a bit whenever he decides to play like light bowgun. But it's a good gun. So highly recommend making it. Highly recommend using it. You say, what came out of the Frostfang? Oh god, Frostfang, the fight's easy. He's got too little life. He dies. We got something neat out of it. We've got ourselves a fun light bowgun to use, right? This is definitely a lot more interesting than our normal shot set. I'll just show that off real quickly just to show you. Currently, when it, like my go-to light bowgun has been normal. This is what that set looks like. And this is like, what, my safer one. I put guts on this because I was like, why not? All right, just more interesting than this play style, right? Hooray. Like, it's effective. It's safe. But I would be lying if I'm like, I'm having the time of my life, guys. I'll show this just for fun in case you saw. You're like, oh, wow, I want to be the guy that shoots normal 2 ammo from my B. I even put health regen on there. That's how much of a degenerate I am. The only, like, not super meta piece here is the tacit, but that's fine. Because it gives guts, right? I think I figured, hey, what the hell? I can put it on there. Why not? All right. So that's it for now. If you have not done yet so already, please check me over at Twitch. I'm a streamer. I stream full-time. So your support on that channel is a great way of supporting putting out more videos on this YouTube channel. All right. Till next time. The Shepherd saying good luck. Have a good hunt.